Hello, welcome all. In this episode of Corporate Communication, we'll be discussing more on tools of communication. As everybody say, communication is an art. It has to be developed, it has to be learned, and for some it is been an inborn activity. But for a reputation of an organization, communication is a lifeblood. But how do you communicate? How can you put the message across the organization, across the members, across the external public is very much important. So, in order to cater to the needs of all these things, the corporate communication department uses various kinds of tools to get the message across. As we already know, the main purpose of any kind of communication of an organization is to build a reputation, is to create a brand for themselves, and also to make a mark in the market. So, in order to do all these things, the corporate communication department engages themselves by using various kinds of tools of communication. When you speak of the tools of communication in the corporate communication sector, it can be classified into various categories. One would be the print medium, the second would be the broadcast medium, the third would be the social media, the fourth is the outdoor advertisement, and fifth will be the miscellaneous, under which we will be seeing the various activities which makes the organization lift its what we call the brand in the eyes of the public. First, let's take up the print media sector. When we speak of the communication, as I told, communication is a lifeblood of any organization. For a human to exist, you need to communicate with one another. The main purpose of any kind of communication is to put the right message at the right time and at the right place. And for an organization, this kind of right time of communication is very much important. So the communication can't be of the same kind. You need to use various tools in order to get the message across the organization. You need to use these tools at different time, at different ways, so that the messages can reach the target audience. In the coming session, or maybe in the coming hour, you'll be knowing more on how these corporate sector people will be using these tools. Now let's take up the very first category, that is the print media. When I speak of print media, there are various options available for a corporate communication department people to use the different kind of variety. The first and the foremost thing what you usually see is a newsletter. Every organization brings out a newsletter. Newsletters are usually 8 to 10 pages of a booklet which usually comes out every month and which is usually for the internal communication or the internal public. These newsletters may not be distributed or it will not be circulated outside the organization, but usually it has or it circulates within the organization. The corporate communication department people are responsible for bringing out this newsletter. Usually, the newsletter consists of the editorial of the organization, which is usually written by the CEO of the company, or it can be the person who is on a highest designation. The contribution of these articles, of these write-ups, or of the happenings of the organizations are taken care by the corporate communication department. So they document all the activities. The main purpose of bringing out this newsletter is just to inform the people what is happening where and how the departments of the organizations are performing. And it also provides a very good platform for the employees within the organization to contribute. Just to give you an example, you have a newsletter which is being brought out by Philips in the name of The Big Picture. The Big Picture. The Big Picture is a newsletter which is being brought out by the Philips department, where the contribution of the articles are done by the employees. It usually contains the various activities which has happened in the whole month. It contains the picture of the activities. sometimes it is the opinion of the people. There may be lot of celebrations, there may be lot of activities, functions, product launch. All these things are usually being documented in the form of a newsletter, and it is exclusively for internal communication. Then you have something called as a poster. As you all know, if anything has to be told to the people, especially within the organization, you have different varieties, or you need not have to bring out a newsletter. If there is a sudden memo, or if there is a sudden announcement about a celebration, or about a coming up of a marathon of the organization, you try to convey these kind of messages to your employees in the form of a poster. Posters are usually very artistic in nature. They convey a message, and it will also be having a kind of pictures, it will be a kind of a collage, it will be a kind of a creative work of the employees where the messages can be sent. And these posters are used very extensively in the organizations to convey the message, and also to inform the employees of the upcoming event, the day of the event, or what are the activities which will be event. So you have the provision to create these kind of a posters in a very creative manner. It's not only creative in nature, but at the same time the involvement of the employees of creating such an posters will also be a good example of team building. Then you also have something called as the house journal. The third important kind of a tool what is extensively used in the organization nowadays is the house journal. The house journals are usually a booklet which is usually of 60 to 80 pages. It's an advanced version of a newsletter. House journals are also a very important and an integral part of an organization. It helps the investors, it helps the external public like the government, like the investors, the bank institutions, or the media organizations to know the activities of an organization in a compiled form. The responsibility of bringing out a house journal lies with the corporate communication department, which is usually having a group of people who will try to document every activity. It can be in the form of an interview, it can be the celebration sometimes, or it can be a message from the CEO, or it also can document the activities of the organization in the other part of the world. Okay, so there will be a kind of exchange of ideas, there will be a kind of exchange of information which help the employees, not only the employees but even the external public, to know what's happening in the organization. Then you also have something called as a notice board, which is a very common one. Notice boards nowadays have become more electronic one. Earlier you used to have a notice board where the messages used to be displayed. Maybe a day's meeting, or maybe the celebration of a person, or maybe an emergency meeting by the CEO, or maybe the head of the department. So usually notice boards are a very important tool in an organization nowadays, because if you really want to inform, or if you really want to maintain the engagement of your employees and to keep them informed about the activities, notice boards are very common nowadays. These notice boards have been converted into the electronic notice boards, which are very creative in nature, and you can also save papers also. So electronic notice boards and the regular notice boards are the very common thing what you usually see. Then you also have something called as pamphlets. It's a similar kind of the posters where the pamphlets can be created. These kinds of pamphlets are created whenever there is an organization of a particular function. Okay, it will be a creative outlet of the function or maybe activity which will be designed by the corporate, and these pamphlets are the easiest way to convey the message of the organization to the outer world sometimes. So this is exclusively being used at the corporate sector level under the print categories. Then you also have something called as the electronic or the broadcast media. This is the second important tools what is extensively used in the organization. Nowadays, all the organizations are using radio very extensively, as well as the television. Television is an audiovisual medium through which you can not only tell the things about your organization through audio, but you can also show it very extensively through magnificent visuals. So you have this corporate communication department who usually engages themselves in creating many kinds of programs related to the organization. It can be an interview of your CEO, it can be the production sector of your organization, the opinion of the employees of your organization, making the documentation in a very creative manner by indulging in the different kinds of graphic designing, the animation, the music. All these things put together make the things much more easier. And nowadays people may don't have time to go through the content in the form of a newspaper or in the form of a newsletter or in the form of a poster. But when you make this kind of electronic gadgets or electronic things or electronic way of documentation of things, it becomes much more creative. At the same time, it can be easily understood by the person who receives it. So extensively, all the corporates are using the television to create a kind of opinion, a kind of small documentaries about the organization in the eyes of the public, because people will be looking for these kind of complete different documentation of the organization. Then you also have something called as the radio broadcasting. Every organization make use of this radio stations very well. It can be in the form of advertisements, it can be in the form of an announcements. The only purpose of using this is because it can reach the larger audience. In a very small time, the audience can be reached, and the effect of these mediums, both television as well as the radio, is very far reaching. So it is very important for them to use this, because people have started listening to radio more. People look or people depend more on the television to get more information. So you as a corporate communication department can make use of this broadcasting media to convey the message. There are a lot of things which can be covered. You have different kinds of business news channels who will be looking for the content, and the content comes from these organizations. For example, if you want to, or if you are launching a new product of your company, it can be in the form of an automobile company, or it can be a beauty product, or it can be a banking service, or it can be an educational app. The only thing you need to do is to write to the media organization. The media will come and cover the issue. It can be in the form of a news, it can be in the form of a segment, it can be a form of a documentary, which will be telecasted or broadcasted to the people or to the community through their media organizations, thus making your organization getting more visibility in the eyes of the public. So these two things are extensively used by the organization nowadays. The third and the foremost important thing is, or the tool what they extensively use today, is the social media tool. When I say social media tool, it refers to your Facebook page, it can be your Twitter handle, it can be your Instagram, or it can be even your WhatsApp. All these kind of social media platforms have become an integral part. Whereas the other two things which are referred, the print medium and the broadcast medium, requires a huge amount of money. You need to spend huge amount of money to get an advertisement, to get a program broadcasted on your television channel or maybe in a radio station. Whereas this social media is something which you can use very extensively at a very cheaper cost. At the same time, you can reach the global audience. That is the reason why almost all the organizations today have their own specific Facebook page through which they try to connect to the customers. They try to connect to the investors. And that's not only about connectivity, it's also about having visibility to your organization. You don't find any organization which is not on the social media today. It has become a very important place where you can engage your customers, where you can have interaction with your customers, where you can get the user generated content there and there itself. So what has become is, it is not so much of a time consuming. Within no minute, if you post a particular product of your company which is getting launched, or if you want to know the rating of your company's product, the only thing what you need to do is to post it on your Twitter handle, or maybe on your Instagram, or maybe on your Facebook. Within seconds or within minutes, your Facebook page will be overloaded with almost all the content, whether it is likes, it can be dislikes. So the corporate communication department people will get to know what is the kind of trend the product has, whether the product has become a hit in the market, or whether what is the drawback of the company, where the company needs to get improvised. It can be in the form of the format, it can be in the form of a pricing, it can be the packaging. The people will get the answer there and there itself. So today social media has become one of the strongest point for these people to evaluate the activities. It can be anything. With social media coming in, you have a very big canvas where you people can play with the audio, you can play with the graphics, you can play with the good visuals, the color, the contrast, the different kinds of fonts. All these things have made the social media very more interactive, and none of the corporate departments doesn't want to miss out this opportunity of getting the visibility. That's the reason why they have been using this social media tool in a very extensive manner. Then you also have exhibitions. The other important kind of tool which can be used in a corporate sector is about the exhibition. Exhibition is a process where, or exhibition is a kind of a trend where the organization can exhibit their products. Whenever there is a huge exhibition, whether let's say it is a consumer exhibition, or it can be an automobile exhibition, or it can be a book exhibition, the organizations or the publishing houses or the people or the manufacturers can exhibit their products. Exhibition gives a very direct way in which you can get connected to your customers. The consumers walk into your exhibitions, they have the real time experience there, they interact with the officials there, they interact with the marketing executives there. So it so happens that they can feel and touch the product sometimes. So these kind of exhibitions are being used as one of the strongest tool for the corporate sectors today. Exhibitions are being run. There are different places where the exhibitions are being run, where it is a collaborative activity. For example, if I say it is an automobile exhibition, almost all the automobile companies across the globe would like to come under one roof and exhibit their product. So a customer will feel very happy to get into that exhibition and see, feel, and also to purchase the products which is there under one roof. So these kind of exhibition is also very important because it gives an interface, or it gives a very personal touch for the people to understand the product. You can just get the problem solved there. It is very easy for you to interact with officials, get to know the things, the operative thing, the modus operandi of starting a car, of driving a car. So each and everything can be done within no time. So exhibitions are also one of the important tool which can attract the attention of the people. Then you also have something called as an open house. Today open house is a process where the organizations will open up their industries, or they'll open up their plants to the general public to have a personal touch. There are many organizations which will never allow the public to get into the or what you call the place, or maybe the industrial area. But this open day is a concept where the industry will open up its gates for the community to walk in. Any individual without the age group or without the any kind of a background can just walk into the organization, see how the plant is working. Just to give an example, Toyota, which is an automobile manufacturing industry, so they usually conduct this open house where you will, as a customer, you need to know how these cars are manufactured, how the coloring has been done, how the particular machines are being manufactured, how the particular machines are being fixed into a car, how the seats or the upholstery has been done. So this kind of an open house gives the people or the consumers or the customers of the community to get into these factories. 1 or 2 days this will be an open activity where you can just go interact, get to see the things there which is happening live in front of you. So this kind of opportunity will not only help the customers, but at the same time the organizations can also reap a better product, or can reap a better results also. So this is also one of the important tool which is being used very extensively. Then you also have corporate films. Many of the corporate houses today plan, execute and create something called as a documentation work. Each and every documentation is very important, because if I want to know what was happening in my company around 2 years back, just by having a paper or just by having a picture, it's not possible. I need to use the technology and see that how better and how creative way I can document my activities. That is where this corporate films comes into picture. Every organization wants to document their activities on various categories. It can be related to the employee relations, it can be related to the manufacturing of the products, it can be about the health and safety of the employees, it can be related to the extra curricular activities, or it can be recreational activities which the company offers to its employees. All these things are being documented in the form of a corporate film. Corporate films are usually documented by the corporate communication department. They can usually do the recordings. If not, they can hire people who are very good in this kind of documentary work and get the things done. So these kind of activities have become a regular medium, or I should say this have become a very regular activity to keep in touch with your general public. It's not only about the general public, it's also about how well you can place the brand of your organization, how well you can uplift the name, the fame of your organization. The next important way, or the next important tool of corporate communication is films. Nowadays, films are also become an integral part of promoting the organization and its product. You might have seen that many film uses the brand, a particular brand car, or maybe a particular office of the organization in the movies. This is a separate way of indulging in the popularity of it. Is a simple way of developing the contact and also to develop a kind of opinion about your organization. Here you are trying to place an advertisement, or you are trying to place a product of your company without the knowledge of the people. People get to know the things, people get to see the things. It is not intentional. The company knows that they have placed this particular product or a particular car of that particular brand intentionally, but for a people or for the person who watches the movie, he or she will not be aware. So these kind of activities are also happening very larger in time, or it is happening in a very regular manner, so that the company gets the mileage. Here it is beneficial for both the parties, not only for the filmmakers but also for the organization. So these are some of the tools which are exclusively used by the corporate communication department to be in touch, or maybe to develop the activities and develop the organization's brand in the eye of the public. Thank you, one and all.